Welcome to Real Estate Game Changers Radio, featuring real estate trendsetters and industry influencers, sharing tips and strategies to help home buyers and home sellers get the most out of their next real estate transaction. Now, here's your host, Suzanne Doyle Ingram.
This is Suzanne Doyle Ingram with Real Estate Game Changers Radio, and I'm so excited about our guest today because he is really a go-getter and a really interesting guy. We're going to learn more from him when he gets on the line here, but his name is Mike Opyd, and he specializes in all facets of the residential real estate business, but he really excels in working with first-time home buyers, and more specifically with the millennial generation, which I always find fascinating because I am far from a millennial. So he credits his status as a top agent to his many mentors over the course of his career, and I really believe in that too, that everybody needs a good mentor. And Mike's drive and character and his absolute love for real estate have established him as a reputable and trustworthy realtor. And also what's great about Mike is he is a published author. He is the author of the book, How to Buy Your First Chicago Home. So you've got to check that out on Amazon. He's also was named in the Who's Who list in Chicago Agent magazine in 2014 and 2015, and he is in the top 1% for sales and transactions in Chicago real estate. Let's welcome to the show Mike Opyd. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks so much for being on the show today. I know you're really busy, so I really appreciate you carving out the time.
Of course.
I want to ask you the first question. Let's dive in right away. I want to ask you, what do you love about your career in real estate?
Great question, because there's 1,000 things I love about it. But my favorite thing is that I love meeting people and getting to know people on a more personal level. There's so many people in this world, and there's so many people that you don't just bypass on the street. You know, you never really get to know them. But one of the coolest things about real estate is, you know, when you sit with someone, you really kind of get to know them on a personal level. And to me, it's not just a transaction where there's just, you know, I'm just helping them buy a house. I'm helping them buy a life, you know, essentially, you know.
Yeah.
So for me, I want to know more about the people, get to know them on a personal level. And then I think that just translates into a phenomenal transaction that they feel comfortable. They feel good about themselves, their decision. And then that helps produce more business for me in the future because they refer me to everyone. So, you know, getting to know people on just like that type of level is just, it's one of my favorite things. You know, I'm a talker. I love to talk, but I love to listen. And just when you kind of have that opportunity day in and day out with new people here, whether it's a buyer, seller, someone in the industry you never met before, or whatever it is, it's just amazing that, you know, I'm not just sitting at a desk, maybe talking on the phone. I'm out there actually meeting different people and just, you know, kind of gathering everything that they have to offer and, you know, using it in my life.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I think that's a really good point that you said about, you know, really listening, because it's almost like in real estate, sometimes you have to be detective and figure out, you know, what they're saying they want and then how that translates into what they can have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now tell me about Chicago and real estate there. Were you born and raised in Chicago?
I was actually born in the south suburb of Chicago, about 25 minutes south of the city. So definitely a Chicago boy, born and raised. And you know, the neat thing about Chicago is I kind of look at it as almost like a scaled down version of either like maybe New York or a Boston, maybe a combination of the both. Mm-hmm. Chicago is just very unique. You know, we have 77 neighborhoods here.
Wow, really? I never knew that.
Yeah.
Wow.
77 neighborhoods. We're a massive city. You know, and most people, when they think of Chicago, they just think of downtown, you know, the Loop area, the Sears Tower. And yes, it is called the Sears Tower no matter what they rename it. But most people just think of that, and they think of Millennium Park and then, you know, and that. But it's actually, Chicago is a massive area. So if you actually pulled up Chicago on a map, you would see how big it really is. So it's just really cool to kind of see all those facets. And there's so many different little pockets throughout the city, which one thing that really makes Chicago unique is that we don't base our price off the square footage, which is something we're the only city in the entire world that doesn't do that. So kind of the neat fact of the day is that that's not how we base our price in Chicago. And not a lot of people realize that.
How do you determine the price of a home then?
We just base it off similar comps, comparables.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's similar in a way, but it's kind of different, just that we can't do that. With 77 neighborhoods and how everyone kind of measures square footage differently, it's just really not possible. Kind of the only exception to the rule is a couple high-end buildings where we do price per square foot. But Chicago as a whole is just amazing. There's so many different neighborhoods. It's completely diversifying, which is wonderful, and it's really growing. Which the cool thing about our city is that they've infused so much more money into it now to rebuild it. That it's growing exponentially, and it's amazing to see how certain people take to certain areas and then watch how that area grows, and then maybe they can't afford that area, so they move to the next area, and then that area grows, and it's kind of like just like organic how it happens. So it's I love this city,
That's
so
great.
for me, I could talk forever about it.
Oh, I've never been to Chicago, and I will come one day, and maybe you could be my tour guide and show me around to some of those 77 neighborhoods. It'll probably take a long time to see them all.
For all of them, yes. I could show you some really great ones.
Oh, that's great. So tell me about who you love working with. What type of person do you like to work with?
Yeah, I like to specialize with first-time home buyers.
Great.
If I am going to pick kind of like my real kind of base. I really do everything, but I really enjoy the first-time home buyer experience.
I bet.
For me, excuse me?
I said, I bet you do. It must be so thrilling to hand them their keys.
It is. It really is. And the joy on their face, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because, for me, I'm a millennial, right? So when I bought my first place, I was a younger guy, and that's to see kind of like how that process works, how I went through it, is how I see my clients go through it. So for me, because I've been doing this for 9 years, I know how to explain to them what to expect, what to anticipate, and for me, I love seeing kind of like, like when an artist looks at a blank canvas, they see how the painting needs to be done, right? Well, a first-time home buyer is completely blank canvas, for the most part.
Yeah.
So for me, I get to kind of paint a picture for them, explain them how the process works, walk them through each step of it, make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're making an informed decision, and then make sure when it all is said and done, they're happy. Obviously that's the ultimate goal. But for first-time home buyers, they're scared to death. The biggest financial decision they're ever going to make. Yeah. And for me, I love that. It's like I kind of feed off it because I'm able to sit there and kind of calm their fears, walk them through how this is going to work to the point where they're not freaking out, what's next. They're more interested in, well, what is next? Not like scared of the next step. Yeah. They're just more excited to get to the next step because they want to buy the place. So I really enjoy just kind of working with them, seeing how these people develop through the time that I'm with them and through the transaction to the point when they close, they have such a phenomenal understanding of it that now when these clients that I originally worked with years ago are coming back to me, it's so cool to see them walk through the process now, and they know what's next. And they're like, Mike, we know that's coming up. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, but I still got to go through the process with them. But now they know what to expect because they're so educated after we're done. Yeah, that's great and so good. They've got to put their trust in you because you know what you're doing, and you just say, hey, listen, I know what I'm doing. Trust me. I know it's scary. Exactly. And so I imagine now you might have some clients that are coming back to you that are ready for a bigger home because now they're having children and that kind of thing. Yeah, that's finally started to happening. When I started, it was in 2007. I'm the one that jumped in when everyone jumped out after the crash. Oh my gosh, you started in 2007. Yeah. Oh, I did. So I started in 2007. I don't know. I saw that this is a career that I really wanted to do, no matter what it took. So the first years were a grind. Not a lot of income was made, but the education piece is what got me to where I am today. So now that I've been doing it for 9 years and the economy's come back and our markets come back in recent years, a lot of those first-time home buyers are now coming back, yes, and are asking me about buying the next place. Or even some are now still enjoying that first place and are now looking at investment property. So it's kind of been a mix of it, going that way. And I think a lot of it has to do with how, when people were buying when we're millennials, a lot of times they're buying bigger places because at this point, they're in their 30s and they might already have a spouse or a child, and they've been renting for all those years. So now they're actually buying a bigger place than, a single guy or single girl buying just like a small studio or one bedroom. Instead, they're buying the 2 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And then they're coming around to eventually going to be needing a 3-bedroom or a single family home if they're done with like the condo living. So it's definitely starting to come around a lot more than it has in the past.
Okay, good. Can you tell me a story about a family or a couple of young millennials or one millennial that you helped get into their first home?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a couple of really good friends of mine that I've known for years, and they had a couple of realtors in the past before they really understood that I was, doing as well as I am. People are always hesitant to not work with people that are not successful just because it's such a huge decision. So they actually were asking me to help them buy. It was their second place, but the first place was kind of like a new construction. They went and bought it. They had no idea what the process looked like. So when I sat with them to educate them and kind of explain how the process works, they were blown away because it's not at all how it happened. The parents helped them. It was a very simple process for them because they really didn't do a whole lot. So what I did was I sat down with them, and I have a whole presentation that I do on an iPad that's through Keynote that explains the process and pricing and everything like that. And it was very cool to see how blown away they were because they sat there and go, wow, this is not at all what we did. So with them, sat down, walked through it, and then basically got them set up on a property search. And then we kind of like collaborate together on which ones to see, which ones are the right choice for them. And I'm always searching for my clients, so I'm finding stuff for them. Maybe that's not on the market yet or stuff that they have questions about. And we actually got under contract on a place. They thought it was the place until we went through the inspection, realized it was actually going to be costing them a lot more than they had anticipated.
Oh, dear.
So we actually had to back out of a deal on that one, which they were heartbroken, took about a month off. But I was actually able to find a property very similar close by that was not on the market yet through one of the realtors I'm really good friends with. Saw it, and they immediately knew they had to have this place. So then we got to, so it was really cool to see, like, they were so frustrated, so, like, kind of beat up over that first place. But it was the right choice, If it's not the right place and it's going to be a money pit, you got to walk away. As tough as it is. And,
they're so heartbroken they think that's the end. And meanwhile, you're behind the scenes going, I'm going to find them an even better place. So I know you can be confident knowing you're going to save the day.
Yes, exactly. And that's such a cool feeling to have that too, where you get someone who's so downtrodden and so depressed, like, oh my God, that was it. And then you find them a better place, and they're like, okay, that was not the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what's the difference working with millennials versus working with people in their 50s?
Like I said, it's a blank canvas a lot of times with millennial buyers. So you kind of get the really, really education piece to them. The cool thing so I kind of explained how that works, with the millennials. Millennials are a lot more, how do I say this? A little more freaked out, but they want brand new. So
that's what I would say. That's what I would think too.
Yeah. So they're scared, but with the millennial buyer, I am a millennial, and so like I understand that there's a reason why we get a new iPhone every 4 weeks, right? Because we have to have the new hot shiny thing, right?
I know.
So the interesting thing with millennials is we grew up in a generation where we incurred so much debt from having to go back to school to get that master's degree that most people are finding out isn't necessary now anyways, but they compounded all this debt. So now they're trying to find ways to buy places because our rents are so expensive. And they're finding, though, what they want and what they could afford just really doesn't match up.
Right.
Like, we all want new construction, brand new, shiny, new modern everything. But for a lot of millennials, that's just not in the budget. So for them, they have to rethink the plan of, well, can we do some kind of construction, or renovations and stuff like that, and kind of have to settle for something maybe not perfect, but close enough where they can make it their own. And the difference between that and someone who's in their 50s is a lot of times in their 50s, they have the money, right? They've bought multiple places by this point. they're not scared at all to do some renovations. Most of them have renovated a bunch of places. One of my clients right now that I'm currently under contract with, we walked into a place and their mind already went to, okay, how are we going to redesign this? We're taking this closet out. We're making this closet into a pantry. And that's where their mind went right away. Yeah. Because they have the money to do the renovations. They're not scared of it because they've gone through it before. They know the contacts of the people. Whereas a millennial, they're just like, they don't have that vision and they don't know who to call. They don't know if they can afford that. So it's kind of a different dynamic to walk into a place and kind of see the minds of each set of people like kind of work right away. You can see the fear on a millennial's face right away when it's not exactly what they're looking for. And then that's my job to kind of, shape them into knowing it is possible if you do this, this, and this. It's not as expensive as you think. Right. Nothing like you see on TV, but it's not as bad here.
I know. That's, again, comes back to you educating them and calming them down and basically holding their hand and saying, you can't afford the brand new condo, but we can do something this way instead. Yeah, I think, and it's funny because I'm 48, so when my husband and I bought our first home, we looked, all we could afford was, what we could afford, and we were looking at some absolute stumps, but eventually we got one, and my dad was involved, and my dad said the same thing. He's like, you can't have your dream home when you're 28 years old. So you're going to get this home, and we're going to change this and this and this. We pulled up all the carpets, and there was beautiful hardwood floors underneath. It just, it was just fantastic, right? And we made it really beautiful. Yeah. Then we sold it and made $100,000. So, and then we moved up and up and up, So that's the sort of thing that when you're young, really young, and you have a new baby, that's what we were, and we were just totally freaked out. but it all works out in the end.
Exactly.
So I love this, where we're going with this. Thank you so much. Tell me a little bit about what your guiding principles are as a business person.
My guiding principles are, and it sounds cliche, but, the principles of it all comes back down to who your clients are and how you treat them. I'm very, very involved with my clients and how the process works. And the idea for me is I need to treat them is not only as a client, but as like a friend and get through the transaction. And I really want them to understand that, it's, what they might see on TV or read or hear about realtors isn't true. We're not used car salesmen just looking for, not all of us, I should say, are not used car salesmen who are just looking for a quick buck. I explain to them, like, look, I don't need your transaction to pay my bills. I'm successful. I've done this for a long time. I have a great client base. So just know that the income I'm going to make off your deal isn't going to change my life. So what does change my life, though, is you have a fantastic transaction. You use me multiple times down the line. You refer me to family and friends. And then that's a game changer. That's a lot of deals, and that's a lot of income. That's what changes someone's life. Yeah. So, my principles are is that the clients are first and foremost, just front and center with everything. Like whatever I need to do to get deals done. I don't like to let deals fall apart. If there's a solution, let's try to find some kind of way to work together to make stuff happen. But if it is the right move to walk away, it's the right move to walk away. I don't pressure people. I don't force them into decisions. I give them as much information as I can up front so they can make an informed one. If it's not a right decision, then there's always an option to back out and make a different one. So I don't know. It's a cliche. Everyone says their clients are first, but it's hard to get around that cliche and find something else just to have an answer to it. I mean, our clients are our lives. So
absolutely. And I don't think you can be successful if you don't put your clients first, because you really are so important to them. I mean, I can't believe that anybody in this day and age would ever try to buy or sell a home without a realtor, because you are educated on all the laws and all the bylaws and all the everything, and it's just I hear about some disasters that can happen without using a proper professional real estate agent.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm 100% with you, especially on the buy side, because here in Chicago, I don't know, I'm sure it's probably just everywhere too, is that the seller side actually pays the buyer side commission. So for a buyer to not have an agent representing them for free.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are kidding me, right? Like, I would love to go into my dentist and go, you're going to do this work for free, right?
I know.
Yeah,
it's crazy. And also just the fact that, for a buyer to go in and look at a home that, and if someone's trying to sell their home, the buyer doesn't really know if that person has actually fully disclosed everything about the home if they're not using a real estate agent. And that's what kind of freaks me out. I think they could have had a flood once a year for the last 10 years in that home, and they just kind of prettied it up with new carpet, and you don't know until you get in there, which is really disastrous.
Yeah, it's like slapping lipstick on a pig, right? I mean,
exactly, yeah.
A lot of sellers do it, too. So that's why
funny.
being a professional and knowing what to look for is so key to having someone like that on your side.
Yeah. So tell me, what was going on for you in 2007, 2008, before you started in real estate? What were you doing, and why did you decide to go into real estate?
Yeah, I was actually tried my hand in the corporate world. I graduated college, and I thought I was going to take over the financial world.
Mm-hmm.
Got a job right out of college doing partnership tax accounting, which is just as boring as it sounds.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, but you know what? When you're in your early 20s and you have no money,
you do.
Yeah,
you got
anything.
Totally. I totally believe in that, and you should.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And I did it for 2 years, and it was not. I knew it wasn't for me, but I needed, obviously, money, just graduated college, so did that for 2 years, sitting behind a desk, staring at an Excel spreadsheet, and I was actually out in Boston doing this just because I wanted to get out of Chicago for a little bit of time just to kind of do something different while I could.
Yeah.
So moved to Boston for 2 years, and then I just quit. Quit my job in the worst economy we've ever seen, moved back home with no job, no anything.
Wow.
I just knew that wasn't what I wanted anymore. So you can needless to say my mom was not happy with me during this time.
She says, Mike, haven't I taught you anything?
Yeah, and coming from an accountant who's a type A, those aren't great conversations. But I knew it was what I wanted to do, and so I was looking around for a job. And so I was still thinking I wanted to do something in finance. And it just so happened a cousin of mine had been a realtor here in Chicago for a long time. And I actually just called her up randomly asking an investment question, like investing in real estate. And I mean, I had no money, but it was just something that piqued my interest. So I called her. 30 minutes later, after I hung up, I signed up for my license, signed up for my test, got my license 2 weeks later, and immediately jumped into real estate.
Wow.
I was 100% obsessed with it, like everything about it. She explained to me kind of just how things work and just kind of what the industry is like. And I'm just like, it's one of those things where like a light just goes off.
Yeah.
Like it just clicks. Like
you just love it.
That's me. That's what I want to do.
Oh, that's great.
So jumped in with no education on it. And my cousin was actually my first mentor. So
good.
I was learning from her as those first rough years were going on. And I was just kind of getting educated during that time.
Yeah, and you did mention that you had some great mentors, and I think that's so important for people to talk about, because I don't think you can get anywhere in business without mentors or without a coach or someone who can give you advice, because they've been there, done that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you look at any successful person, any entrepreneur, especially that's gotten to that level that we're all striving to get to. I mean, they credit just the people that came before them that they learned from, or even any manager, like in sports or coaches, they always credit the people that came before them. And it's like, why reinvent the wheel? If someone's already been doing this for years, has the education just from the years of experience, why not learn from them? That's the best way to do it. And especially in our industry where I don't care how many books are written, you can't just open a book up and understand everything there is to know about real estate.
Right.
And you have to really go through the process, go through the buying process, go through the selling process. And I mean, every day I'm still getting educated, still learning. And that's just how crazy this industry is. But having that almost like a fallback that you could just always hop on the horn and just give them a quick call, ask those questions, and more often than not, they've been through the process already, so they could educate you on it. It's just a huge comfort, a huge relief to have that like in your back pocket. Absolutely.
I totally agree with that. And I think that, you are unique as you are. And so with all the things that you learn from your mentors and your coaches and your other associates and experiences, it's filtered down so that it's still unique to you. I mean, you might take their advice and give it a little twist, but you still have that, exactly. That it's nice to know, especially when you're in a new situation and they say, oh, I've been there, don't worry about it, it'll all turn out fine, you just do this, this, and this,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, our first reaction is to freak out. I mean, that's just how we are as human beings. So you got a comforting voice that goes, don't worry about it. Been there, done that. This is what you need to do. Here's what's going to happen. And then when it does, I mean, it's just such a huge comfort.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, one of the name of the show is Real Estate Game Changers, and what I like about you, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, is that you volunteer with the United Way of Chicago. So, can you tell me a little bit about that, about how you're giving back to your community?
Absolutely. So I always enjoyed charities. When I was younger, I would do charity and do some volunteer stuff where I help kids with like math and stuff like that. So I've always really loved that philanthropy kind of like piece to life. There's so much. I've been so privileged. I want to give something back. So there's a lot of cool different charities around Chicago, and I was kind of looking around for something that I felt was kind of what I really felt like. And I love this. I love Chicago, and the United Way gives back so much to Chicago that I literally just, I reached out to somebody at United Way and asked a couple questions. I was like, how can I get more involved? I was thinking it was more on this a volunteer level. But they had told me look, we have this young program that's just starting to get rolling. It's been around for a couple of years, called the Young Leaders Society. And so I went and met with someone, spoke to him, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's a bunch of people around my same age who have the same philosophy as me, just really want to help the communities in Chicago, really want to make a difference, even if it's a small difference. So I asked if I can, I went to a couple of events, spoke with a bunch of people, got actually invited to sit on the board, which was amazing.
Great.
I was so excited about that because that's really how you could get involved more on a deeper level, right? Everyone could go and volunteer at a soup kitchen, but I wanted to be in the heart of it. So what I did was I joined the board. And then I was like, well, can I take this to another level? So is there anything else I could do even farther? So then I got invited to be one of the chairs of the membership committee on the board. So what I do with that is we're always involved in trying to bring on more people, spread the kind of word, I guess you could say, of what United does and all the charities around Chicago that helps, and how 88 cents for every dollar we collect goes towards some kind of Chicago charity. Whether it's the Chicago Food Drive or, we have an event coming up next month, which is going to be collecting books for inner city kids who just don't have books and literally probably won't ever have one if someone doesn't really give one to them because they're just not privileged enough to have them.
Oh, that's great. Books are so important. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you, I read 15 to 20 books a year. I'm obsessed with them. So but it's little things like that I want to get more involved. So United Way it just so happened they have this amazing board, and it's been phenomenal. This is my third year on it. We've raised so much money to help out Chicago that it's been just a great experience to see how all these kids my age, I call them kids, but all these young adults my age are, just have that mindset. We just want to help one way or the other.
Oh,
no matter how
so
it is,
great.
let's just do this. So, it's been an incredible experience.
That's fantastic. And plus you get to meet people, too, because I'm sure they're all from all different walks of life and all different types of businesses, too.
Yeah, we got people all over board, from entrepreneurs to people working in the corporate world, people, that, I've met some commercial real estate people on it. So, there's always different ways to expand your business and expand your kind of reach with people and your network. And this is just a bonus to it, right? So I get to help out people. At the same time, I get to meet a bunch of people, expand my network. So and you never know where business is going to come from too. So, a byproduct of doing this is, I get business out of it too.
Yeah.
Never a bad thing. Obviously not the goal, but of course you're not going to turn down business. So.
Yeah, no, because it's who you know, and people get to know you and like you and trust you, and you're top of mind, so they think, oh, let's call Mike.
Exactly.
That's great. Good. Well, thank you. We're running out of time here, but I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been a wonderful interview, so informative. It makes me want to come to Chicago for sure. And can you tell our listeners how they can reach you if they want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to reach me. You can reach me on my cell phone, 312-929-8910 if you ever have any questions. Email is probably the best way to reach out to me. It's mopyd@americorpre.com, AMERICORPRE.com. Or if you want to look me up on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, just simply look up Mike Opyd or Michael Opyd, and you'll easily find me. I'm all over the place.
And your last name is spelled Opyd. So that's great. I mean, you have a unique last name like mine. So when people say, hey, why don't you find me on Facebook? I say, no, you need to find me because I'm the only Suzanne Doyle Ingram on there. So
right.
It's so much easier,
there's
right?
no Smith here or any Jones. If you can't find Opyd, if there's a bunch of us, let me know.
Yeah,
exactly.
Lost
family members.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it.
This has been another episode of Real Estate Game Changers Radio with your host, Suzanne Doyle Ingram. To hear all episodes featuring our hand-picked real estate game changers, visit us online at www.realestategamechangersradio.com.